welcome back to another episode of Horror Theory. Once upon a time, there was a small town deep in the woods. The town was surrounded by a dense forest that made it difficult for outsiders to find. It was a quiet, peaceful place where everyone knew everyone else. But there was something strange about the town that no one could quite put their finger on. One day, a group of teenagers decided to go camping in the woods just outside of the town. They set up their tents and started a campfire. Everything was going well until they started hearing strange noises in the woods. They tried to ignore it, thinking it was just an animal or the wind. But as the night wore on, the noises became louder and more unsettling. As they sat around the campfire, they heard footsteps approaching. They all froze, not daring to move. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the woods. It was a tall, thin man with a long, matted hair and ragged clothes. He was holding a machete in one hand, and his eyes were filled with madness. The teenagers tried to run, but the man was too fast. He caught up to them quickly and began to chase them through the woods. They could hear his laughter echoing through the trees as he chased them down. Eventually, the teenagers stumbled upon an old abandoned house in the woods. They ran inside hoping to find a place to hide, but the house was even more terrifying than the man chasing them. The floors creaked, the walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and the air was filled with a musty, damp smell. As they made their way through the house, they discovered that it was filled with ghosts and other supernatural entities. They saw things that made their skin crawl, and they heard voices that whispered evil things in their ears. They were trapped in the house with no way out. The man with the machete continued to chase them through the house, laughing as he went. He seemed to know the layout of the house, and he was always one step ahead of them. As the night wore on, the teenagers began to realize that they were not alone in the house. There were other people trapped there, people who had been lost in the woods and never found their way out. They were ghosts doomed to wander the walls of the house forever. The teenagers knew that they had to find a way out before it was too late. But the man with the machete was always there, blocking their way. They tried to fight him off, but he was too strong. Finally, they stumbled upon a room at the end of a long hallway. The room was filled with ancient artifacts and strange symbols. There was an old book on the pedestal in the center of the room, and the pages glowed with an otherworldly light. The teenagers knew that this book held the key to their escape. They opened it and began to read the ancient text. As they read, the man with the machete burst into the room, his eyes blazing with fury. But it was too late. The teenagers had unleashed a powerful spell, then banished the man with the ghost from the house. They were free at last. As they stumbled out of the house, they realized that they had been trapped there for days, maybe even weeks. The sun was just rising, and they could see the town in the distance. They ran towards it, grateful to be alive. But as they looked back at the house, they saw that it was no longer abandoned. There were people living there, people who looked just as mad and dangerous as the man with the machete, and they knew that they would never be able to forget the horrors they had witnessed in the haunted house in the woods. Subscribe for daily horror stories.